This is Suit Up Sports. Suit Up Sports. Where opinions are as sharp as a tailored suit. No fluff, no gimmicks, just unfiltered, hard-hitting takes on sports and a whole lot more. It's time to suit up. Now here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Welcome to Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout, along with 10-year NFL vet Frank Garcia. Frank, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. What a great week of college football. A little sleepy after last night. It was a late game in the
weather delay.
But I'm sure we'll get into a lot of that and what preceded the game.
Yeah.
With the quarterback and the defensive lineman. But what a great week. And here we are again. We've got some great guests today and looking forward to it.
Yeah, Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports is going to join us, and great handicapper that we've known for probably 20 years. And we'll break down some games, give you some picks. And we got Panthers football this weekend. So it's been a long wait.
As I'm wearing my Steelers.
As you're wearing your Steelers, but we got Steelers football
too. A full
too.
week of football, and the NFL, the big boy football is right upon us.
Yeah, and tonight you've got Kansas City and the Chargers playing in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Which I don't know why the heck they decided they needed to go to Brazil.
That is if we want to talk about that just real quick, I am still perplexed on what type of market Brazil is going to bring to America.
Yeah,
I understand Mexico. I understand Europe.
Yep.
I could even understand China or Japan, a country that, obviously in Canada, they're already there, but Brazil.
Yeah.
The last thing they want to do is American football. They are so emphatic about their soccer, the football that they call football.
Yeah.
Football, American football is just something would be so far down the radar.
It'll be interesting to see what the crowd is, and because I bet you
there'll be people there,
and I'm sure they'll be fired up once they kind of get. It's kind of like me the first time I went to a rugby game this year with the anthem here in town, and I didn't really know what was going on, but by the second time I went, and I kind of knew what was going on, I loved it. So
I was involved in something when I was in high school, DJ. It was really cool. What they were trying to do was introduce football to New Zealand. Right. So, in New Zealand, the All Blacks, the rugby team is like, they're
awesome.
They're Dallas Cowboys, right?
Yep.
That's their thing is rugby. And, it was cool for us as Americans to go over there and see all the traditions, with the All Blacks and the Maori warriors and do their tribal dances.
Yeah.
It was very, very, very tribal and very, kind of what football is here with the way that they respond in their culture there. Yep. So I could see that fit even, but Brazil, I just don't see the transition with that. So I guess Goodell, his dream is to, make it global, and that's going to be great for the guys in the NFL because they're just going to continue to get paid if this continues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited this morning. Big D over here, he looks like he's about to fall asleep. I said, "You tired today, buddy?" And I had to get up early this morning. And I went to a buddy of mine invited me to go see a podcast called The Bible Caddy live at Quail Hollow. And it's hosted by a guy named William Kane, and then Ben Crane, the PGA golfer, and then Webb Simpson, who we all know here in Charlotte in particular.
He's a local here that lives in
local
Quail
guy,
Hollow.
Lives in Quail, won the U.S. Open. And it was great. First 45 minutes, they talk golf and tell stories. And then the last 45 minutes, they kind of break into like a Bible study. But it was really, really good. And some of the stories I'm going to save for our show when we get to the Ryder Cup here in a few weeks. But
they had some great stories on what
great stories.
With how they're going to pick the team, with what they had to do with the process,
the difference between this
Keegan Bradley's decisions. It sounds very interesting.
It was great. So we'll get to those here in a few weeks, but I want to thank Chad Blakenberg for inviting me, and we had a great group of guys out there. It was packed. Probably 250 people out there. And like I said, the storytelling was really good. So I'll save those for a few weeks before the Ryder Cup. But let's start off talking a little bit about what we saw in college football last week, right? So probably the best slate of opening week college football.
Well, first off, let's go over our record.
Yeah, well, Frank, you were 6-2.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Lee will be proud of me.
I hope you bet those games that you talked about. Okay, good.
I did very well this first week.
Well, I was 3-5, and unfortunately, I also bet the games that I took, and so I took it on the chin all week, it seemed. And but yeah, 6-2 for you. We'll make our picks again.
Well,
today.
The funny thing is, when you're betting, right, when you use the spread, right, and you put the juice on it, you literally have to go 3-2 to break even.
Exactly.
3-2 is your break even.
Yep.
Because of the juice that you have to put on each game.
Yep.
So, when you lose that one game, you got to win 2 to make it up, and you're not even there. You halfway make it up. So 6-2 is, I'll take that all day long.
No doubt. I think Lee Sterling, when he comes on from Paramount Sports later in the show, I think he said, and I will ask him to make sure I'm correct on this, but I think he said that like even the best handicappers are 65 to 70%.
Yep.
And like you said, after you take the juice away, I mean, it's a fine margin. You got to hit your big ones.
Well, that's what the difference is between the professionals and the amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
Us as amateurs want to bet on every single game. And
right.
Obviously when you do that, the juice is just going to add up, and they're going to build big old casinos in Vegas. Right.
Yep.
But if you take a handful of games, and that's what I really kind of try to change, is I used to bet 10 games, 12 games. I'll take maybe 5 on Saturday and 5 on Sunday, but I can't double up, or it is what it is. I got to live with those 5. And over time, if you can go 3-1 or 4-1, you're going to make some good money. If you go 3-2, you're like, okay, it's a wash this week. Well, let's go on to next week. But when you go 2-3, that's the ones that hurt, or even 1-4, or something like that. So we try to avoid those.
Well, let's start with a game that we actually both won, and not, like I said, I only won 3 of them, so that list is short. But South Carolina, Virginia Tech, we both have become fans of the Gamecocks, just me through my buddy Justin Goff and his family and his kids. And so whenever I'm with them, they're just South Carolina. I know Braxton, your son, is a huge Sellers fan, Jersey already, and all these things. And so
he's a great kid. I got to meet him for their camp. And I'll tell you what, Beamer has done an incredible job.
He sure has.
When I was talking about that game, having experienced, all sorts of different levels, even high school as I coach now, when you walk into a good program, right? You know what it looks like, how it feels, the culture that exists. And you also know when you walk into a program that isn't quite there, but is on the verge of coming up. And also as well, knowing that, hey, this is, they're pretenders. They're not contenders. They may have all the hype and a good team surrounding them, but they're not really him.
Yep.
So, that's going to South Carolina. I felt like they're on the verge of becoming a consistent team that is going to knock on the door and eventually break it down because of Beamer.
Yeah.
And then you go get good players. Sellers is that guy.
Yep.
And, I think when we look at college football as a whole over the weekend, you have all the hype that surrounded these games, but that game in particular, having been there, having seen how they operate their camp, the way they do every little thing, the structure, the discipline, the organization, that goes into those things, it was first class.
Yeah.
And all that led into me saying that they're going to be ready to play week 1.
Yeah.
And if we do a segment,
and they've struggled in the past coming out of the gate.
They're a team that has all the ability to be good, but they don't believe that they're good.
Right.
Right. And then they would go out and play to the opponent's level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you're playing a bad team, you're going to play down. If you're playing a good team, you might play up and you might surprise somebody. But I think what Beamer has instilled with them, we're going to play to our level.
Yep.
Right. And it really doesn't matter who we play. And when you look at Saban, I don't know if there's a great clip on YouTube or whatever, with the quarterback in the center, and they're beating somebody in the national championship 35-7.
I think it was Notre Dame.
Yeah, it might have been. I think you're right. So you've seen the clip.
I have.
And the quarterback is just all over the center, right? Because he wasn't executing the play.
Yep.
And it's really kind of depicts the reason why Saban has instilled in those kids, we do what we do well better than anybody else. So we have our standard.
Yeah.
Right. And that standard is excellence. And we're gonna make some mistakes, but we're not going to accept less.
Yep.
So even if it's 35-7, when we go out there, we expect to execute exceptionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what Beamer is instilling in South Carolina. And I love Sellers. I love this team. We used to do a segment on the radio, you remember it, called Buy or Sell?
Yep.
I am 100% buying South Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Virginia Tech gave him a good game. Sellers, I wouldn't say had a great game, but he made some great clutch pass, the punt return for a touchdown, blew it open.
Yeah.
So he didn't make mistakes, and they've got a layup this week with South Carolina State, but then it gets real because their schedule is brutal, as is any team in the SEC. But then it gets real.
Well, that being said, I mean, that's what I'm going to be. If I'm becoming a South Carolina fan, I'm really becoming a Beamer fan and a Sellers fan, and South Carolina happens to be the conduit that I'm looking through.
Right.
But they have a good tradition. There's a great little atmosphere and ambiance if you go to a game there.
Other games are great.
Yeah, the game. But what's going to be interesting in that game is playing a lesser opponent.
They have a letdown.
Yeah. Is it okay? We built up all year to play Virginia Tech. Now we're going to go play a team that we're supposed to roll. Do we do what we're supposed to do?
Yep. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, you watch that game, and then there was a couple other games that were the opposite of that. So number one, nobody that I talked to or saw on TV or you and I, when we discussed the game, nobody saw Florida State getting in there and wearing Alabama out. And the score ended up being closer than it was, but Florida State took it to them. And, we talked last week about how this is a huge year for Florida State. We really didn't know what they had because of the portal and all these new players. We did know that they got the quarterback from Boston College who we liked him a lot. And he had a great game. I think that kid's a stud, but man, they took it to Alabama, and Alabama looked all the things you talked about with Saban, the opposite. They looked undisciplined, just like they did last year. You hear the stories after the game that come out about the players are ordering room service at 2 a.m. They were sneaking girls in the room, all these things before the game. And
it's funny you say that because I've been watching a documentary on Netflix with the Dallas Cowboys. And
I heard that's great. I haven't watched it.
It is really, really good. And I happen to be a part of that era where with the change when Switzer came in, Barry Switzer took over. But it reminds me of what you're talking about with Bama, and having a great coach leave an organization to a guy coming in that may not be the same way. And a lot of times when you make shifts like that, you go from strict and disciplined to a little bit softer. Right? You want to change the culture a little bit because the culture is getting stagnant, or you go from soft to really strict, right? And it's going to take some time to adjust. DeBoer, with what he's done at Washington and that West Coast, it seems to be a little bit less where the inmates are running the asylum more at Alabama, like you said.
Right.
Very similar. Barry Switzer, when he was at Oklahoma, when he was there, he was doing a good job. He was one of the winningest coaches in the history of college football. But Jimmy Johnson, when he came from Miami and Jerry Jones went out and recruited him, it was, I am going to be militant with this team, and we are going to learn how to work, and we're going to cut guys for missing kicks. We're going to cut guys for not showing up and being in shape, and we're going to do conditioning, and I am going to work you into a football team. Very similar to what they did at Arkansas, as kind of his stepping stone to what he did at Miami, and also what he did, with the Cowboys. But he was a drill sergeant, and almost to the point where the team kind of gave up. And it was interesting to see the dynamic as Troy Aikman comes in and starts talking to him about, the team and the dynamic and how they became friends, and Michael Irvin and all the things that he had challenges in his career, but how hard he was as a worker and how much Jimmy Johnson respected him. Jerry Jones, same thing.
Yep.
But when Barry Switzer came over, like what we're talking about with Bama and DeBoer,
more, and
it was like, hey, listen, these guys are men.
Yeah,
I'm not going to worry about what they do off the field. I'm here to coach them on the football field. This is going to be laid back. We're going to go take our time. You know what? We're not having a good practice. That's okay. Yeah. Let's go in the pool.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to go celebrate and enjoy and take too much pressure on you. Right. And you could see, the dynamic of that change. Now, the Cowboys still had great players.
They had great players.
They still had great players that carried that torch from the Jimmy Johnson era. But the dynamic of the team completely changed, and there was chaos there for a while. And it seems like for what's happening with Alabama, I mean, I don't know if you can lose your job in week one, but damn, that seat got super hot at Alabama because I think they already have the fillers out for who's the next head coach.
Oh, there's already odds on it.
Yeah, there's already odds.
He better get that ship straightened out.
Didn't look like what they were doing with Alabama, for sure.
No, it did not. Another game that I thought was interesting, and I'm a big Notre Dame fan. We knew that, again, Miami was kind of like Florida State. Miami had a really good year last year. We know they have a good coach. We knew they brought in some good players. but I was very surprised as to how they manhandled Notre Dame on the offensive and defensive line. And then I was really even more surprised about how well Carson Beck played. And Notre Dame has a really good defense. Now, you wouldn't know it by watching, especially the first half of that game, the way that they got manhandled. But Carson Beck looked great. And you talk about a redemption story. The dude leaves Georgia after being a Heisman hopeful last year, and then the injury to his arm and all those things. But Miami looks to be the real deal. And for the ACC, that's a great thing, because you got Clemson on the other hand, another game that we were all excited about to watch, which ended up being a fun game to watch. But they take a L at home to LSU. And you talked about the buy or sell segment you used to do on the radio. And I know going into that game, you weren't sold on Klubnik already. You had questions. What
I was questioning, and there was a guy again on, I think it was on Instagram or whatever, that did a really good job of explaining my brain, right? And what I see when I'm watching games. And it's hard for me to maybe put that on paper or to put in a text. But if I'm watching film, I can tell you exactly what I'm looking at. And this guy did a really, really good job. Just a amateur guy sitting in a chair, breaking down and diagnosing what Klubnik, his progressions are and how you're supposed to process things. And he did a good job of pointing out where the blitz was coming from, what the protection was, the coverage and how they shifted, and where the quarterback's eyes are supposed to go in an instant when you diagnose this thing. And a lot of this stuff really, if you're coached well, should be done pre-snap. So if you're not getting coached on how to watch film, you won't see these things. But once you learn how to watch it, now it just becomes second nature, and it trains your eyes to see flashes where, okay, that flash there, I go here, right? That this is going to be a 1 or 2 man read, and your eyes go right there to that spot. Or when you get really good, you can look over here knowing that those things are going to take place if you have a good feel. Klubnik doesn't have a good feel. And that's the problem once you go from college, because in college, you're going to run maybe a handful of defenses. In the NFL, it's going to be probably 30 defenses. And the disguises, you're going to have Polamalu, a guy like that up at the line of scrimmage, looking like he's going to blitz, knowing that that's what you've studied on film, and then be able to drop back to deep third and pick off a ball. And you're like, where the hell did he come from?
Right.
So that's the difference between college and pro. In college, that you don't have the flexibility to do that, number one. And a lot of times you don't have the players to make those plays,
right.
To do that. And he's struggling with that. And I don't know if that is something that he's not being taught to do, because that is something you can learn. But why do some point guards do better than others? Right? Is because they have a God-given ability to see. Right. It's a God-given ability to see.
Yep.
And feel, what the defense is doing or how the offense is going to react. And you know it better than anybody else. But there's a reason why Steve Nash can make a no-look pass to a spot, knowing that Stoudemire is going to roll right to that spot,
right?
Just because of a look or because of a feel or because of what defense. They're seeing the same thing, where other guys like Westbrook would never make the pass, but he's a great athlete. He's going to take you one-on-one. He's going to make it a different type of game, different type of point guards. Both are effective, but one has the vision and the sight because he doesn't have the athleticism, and the other one's Peyton Manning, Tom Brady.
Right.
Then this Klubnik doesn't have the athleticism is there, right? He has the athleticism for sure. But the vision that you're going to need, because what happens in the NFL is you eventually will get broke because these big guys are going to knock your head off. If you don't do it, you're not going to have a long career.
Well, and Nessmeyer, the quarterback from LSU, who, again, one of the Heisman guys you hear mentioned.
Probably leader of the Heisman right now because of the stature of the game.
He played great. And so, that Clemson took an L, and same with Notre Dame. If you're going to lose a game, I think the first game of the year is the one to lose. Notre Dame's quarterback, redshirt freshman, I thought he showed some potential. I thought that the coaching staff should have opened the playbook up a little more for him. He threw the same route again and again and again, and it cost him in the second half on that interception.
It's easy to say, but if a coach is a good coach, which Freeman's a good coach.
Great coach.
He's a really good coach. You know why I know that? Because they never quit. And they played to the very end. They were down 21-7, I think. Yeah. And fought to the very end to tie it up, got all the momentum, and then, obviously Miami's
field goal kicker, who couldn't kick anything last year.
All of a sudden he became, he became Adam Vinatieri. Yeah. Was knocking them in from 55 yards. Justin Tuck hitting 60-yard kicks like they were nothing in the biggest moments. Yep. And, Cristobal has done a really good job at Miami. But the point that I was going to make with what Freeman and what these coaches do with these players, it's easy for us to say, let's open up the playbook, right? What they know, but we don't, is that I don't have a guy that I can open up the playbook with.
Yeah, and look, I get it. You know, there's a first start in a huge game, but I just felt that
you don't want to wreck a guy's confidence right now and throw so much at him that he's not ready for, because it'll ruin him for the rest of it'll ruin for game 2, game 3, game 4.
Well, and I also thought, and listen, Notre Dame has a week off, then they play Texas A&M, so it doesn't get any easier. I also thought they should have gave Jeremiah Love more touches. You know, he's the best running back in the country. I thought they underused him in that game, but
until what? You saw what we saw at the end of the game. When you look at Pro Football Focus, right, and you watch, what there is some value to I don't love Pro Football Focus because I think a lot of the numbers and stats are just, fugazi, right? They're there, but they really don't indicate how good or bad a player is. I think for this case, you could use as an argument or a tool to say Notre Dame's offensive line got their asses kicked.
They did.
Their right tackle, guess what his grade was?
What?
10.
Oof.
Lowest grade in history of Football Focus.
Which is crazy because Notre Dame always
that's what they're known for.
Lines, no
that
doubt.
Right tackle, or either is not him, and they thought because when you look at him,
yeah,
I mean he's a Hulk,
yep,
right. But then he can't bend, he can't move, and that guy from Miami. It
Miami's
like,
defensive line was unbelievable.
It looked like, Cortez Kennedy, Russell Maryland, and the 88 Hurricanes out there on defense just getting after guy. Warren Sapp. Yep. I mean, that's the type of defense. Miami, buddy, might be, after what I saw in week 1, they might be back. And they might be a top 5 team in the country because – Notre Dame's a good football team.
They are.
Right? They're well coached. They're a good football. They don't have maybe that guy at quarterback yet, and maybe he'll develop, but they have the playmakers. Mm-hmm. But those guys for Notre Dame, their offensive line, as big as they got their handed to them by Miami. In Miami, that doesn't change.
Yeah, they sure did. And I'll tell you something else that and we'll transition into this game or 2 games. I went to the UNC Charlotte App State game. New coaches on both sides.
Some things never change.
Man,
I try to tell you.
Some things never change. I'll say great atmosphere. The fans are great from both sides. But man,
did you? Let me ask you a question. Right, and I keep cutting you off. I don't mean to do that, but I'm excited about football.
No problem, man.
Did you walk away from that game feeling excited, disappointed, or just numb?
I walked away from that game
apathetic,
thinking that they got a long way to go. And here's the thing. I do think this. I think the new coach at UNC Charlotte is a really good coach. I think he inherited an empty cabinet.
Kind of like what I said right before the cabinets between App State and UNC are completely different cabinets.
No doubt. And I tell you,
shopping at IKEA, the other one's at let's say Home Depot.
Restoration Hardware.
No, I'm giving Restoration Hardware. That's the Alabama's, but somewhere in between.
Well, and here's
Kmart.
Here's the thing. I thought the defense played well. I think that they got tired because they were on the field the whole game.
They can't tackle.
Offensively, I thought they were atrocious. Their offensive line was bad. Their quarterback only threw 2-yard passes, it seemed. On RPOs, he seemed to not keep the ball ever. Like he didn't want to run, it appeared.
Do you feel like they played hard?
I thought they played hard.
Yeah,
I do. I thought
that's
they played
important,
and they made a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties that I think on a new team with a lot of new players. Yeah. But here's the thing. If you're UNC Charlotte, you come home for your home opener this weekend, and you're playing the Tar Heels, right? So
after the Tar Heels
got spanked, looked absolutely horrible in doing it after the first drive. I mean, first drive they looked like they were going to win the game 100-0, but Carolina comes into that game 13.5-point favorites, and a lot of people have been asking me, "What do you think about that game?" And I'm like, I don't think Charlotte can score 13 points. I really don't. Like I think Carolina's a lot better than what they showed the other night. I also think TCU is a really good football team, and they're great. I love Sonny Dykes.
They played angry.
They did.
They played because last year, if you remember, they were 1 game away from the playoffs, right? Or they in the playoffs and they lost.
No,
they
didn't get in.
They were close.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they lost to a team. It might have been, I don't know if it was Texas or not, but towards a lot of those players returned, and that coach, I think, has the the voice of the team.
Yeah,
right?
he's a great coach.
He knows what the heartbeat of the team is. So he understands that, and he knows the buttons to push.
Yep.
Because they could have beat North Carolina 70-7. They could have beat them 70-7. They called the dogs off.
I almost did feel that Carolina quit. You asked me about Notre Dame. You're right. Notre Dame fought the whole time.
Right.
I thought UNC Charlotte fought the whole time. Carolina, I felt they quit.
Buddy, the biggest shock of the weekend was the lack of discipline and preparation of the UNC Tar Heels.
I agree, especially on the defensive side, because the reason that I took Carolina in another game that I lost, but the reason I took them was because
you believed in Belichick.
I believed in Belichick, and I believed that he would have the defense at least take a step forward from what they have been. And man,
and what was my argument? Do you remember?
You just said
they don't practice. So they are the softest practicing team in America because of the protocols that they have and the systems in place for they measure contact. And what you learn about that game, and this is kind of my message to, I guess, all coaches and all, young players out there, you can't play like a pro or get treated like a pro until you block and tackle like a pro, right? You can't have practices and pro practices where you're kind of going through the motions and things like that because, hey, listen, we're at UNC and we've been there. No. You have to go through the body blows and the punches in order to prepare so that it becomes second nature. Because if you don't, you're going to get embarrassed by some of these great athletes. And North Carolina looked underprepared.
Yeah, I agree.
They were undisciplined and they quit. And
their defense looked just as bad as it ever has.
I thought that game alone, and I know it's only game one, but against TCU, a formidable opponent.
No doubt.
They were 13-point favorites against, or 7-point favorites against.
TCU is actually 3.5-point favorites.
Okay, that didn't look like they played in the same division.
No, it was bad. And so we'll see Carolina against Charlotte this weekend. Obviously if you're a Charlotte fan, you're excited, to have Carolina even come to the stadium. But man, I don't think people are going to leave very excited after the game because I don't see Charlotte scoring 13 points. I mean, their offense was putrid. So we'll see. I hope it's at least a good game and get back on track. And at least gives Charlotte fans something to hope for. I do think this coach will get this team heading in the right direction. Their schedule's brutal for a team that has very little talent.
He is working with not just 2 hands tied behind his back and might have one leg hog tied as well. So he's a one-legged show right now because with the way the college football is going and the NIL and the recruiting, he's just not going to get the horses to play at the level that you want, that you hope he can play at.
Yeah.
I think that's a dead end job. Basically, if you go to Charlotte right now, the way I'd look at it if I'm a coach, that's my death wish.
Well, and I think this is what Coach Alvin looked at it is if you do go to Charlotte and if you can move the needle and if you can show that you can win 7 games, get in a bowl game, 6 or 7 games, it could also be a nice stepping stone because they're not going to be able to afford to keep you. And so I think that's probably how he looks at it. And again, he has
what resources?
Well, that's the thing.
What resources is Charlotte going to give me?
Well, that's going to be
in order for me to achieve what you're asking for.
Well, they've got more resources now than they've ever had, but you're right. They're still lacking and they're still far behind the people they're going to be going up against.
Because everybody's gaining resources.
Yeah.
I mean, college football is a billion-dollar industry. So if they're gaining resources, guess who else is? Everybody else in their division because they're trying to compete against each other. So if I get a new facility, guess who else is going to get a new facility? Everybody in my division. Because if I'm going to recruit this kid, I have to match at least and do one up what they're doing in order for it to entice that kid to come here. So that's if I don't feel still like Charlotte has committed to football.
Well, you know what? You can't argue it because they've had one winning season in 10, 11 years. They went to one bowl game.
Yeah, that's right.
And
that was under Brad Lambert?
No, that was under Neely, I think.
Okay.
And I believe
that was Brad Lambert.
It might have been
his first year.
No, it wasn't the first year. They went to the Bahama Bowl or something. But anyway, we'll see.
That's when you win 5 games and you go to a bowl.
Well, yeah, kind of. And we'll take it. But, that game's going to be fun. Belichick in town. He was going to come on the show today with us, but his girlfriend called me and said that she wasn't going to allow.
How about the crying meme face of Jordan on her?
Oh, my God. Some of the memes that came out, just some of the memes that are coming out now for all these games. We'll dive into this a little bit later, but because we've got Lee Stern getting ready to come on with us. But just the memes that came out last night after Jalen Carter spit on Dak Prescott have been hilarious. Like the hot Tua girl and then
I was waiting for that.
It's been hilarious. So we'll dive into more of that later on. We're gonna bring Lee Sterling on for Paramount Sports now. We're gonna go through some college games, some NFL games, and then Frank and I will jump back in. We're gonna talk about the Panther game this weekend against the Jaguars. We're gonna give you our division picks, who we think is gonna win each division, and then our Super Bowl picks. So we have that on record now. Hopefully I can right my ship after getting whooped last week. But Lee Sterling coming on right after this.
It's time to suit up. Here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Welcome back to Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout along with Frank Garcia. And now we're welcoming Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports, one of our good buddies who he did radio for us for, I guess, probably 20 years. He's still on radio stations all over the country, podcasts all over the country. He's moved up to the big time now. He's got a studio in his house, and he's obviously won enough games to be able to afford to do that.
It's like every time you talk to a handicapper, it can go one of two ways. Like, this guy is my best friend, or I want to kill this guy.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story, and I've known Lee forever and his family and love him. And Lee is a big Miami guy.
Yes, he is.
One of his picks last weekend was Miami, getting the 2.5 points. And I sent him a text, and I was like, "You're out of your mind. Notre Dame is going to win this game." And so he doesn't reply to me. And the next morning, the first thing I get is a text from Lee that says something like, "You might want to change your job," or you might.
No, he said, "Don't quit your day job.
Don't quit your day job." And you're right, because I went 3-5 last week on my picks. So Frank was 6-2. So you were right, and we just talked about the Miami Notre Dame game a little bit before we had you on, and man, Miami looks to be the real deal.
What's interesting about that, I felt that Miami was going to be ready for that game, and it was that big a game for this program. But I came away from the game, I have to say this, and as big a Miami fan as I am, I don't know if Frank knows this. You may not know this either, DJ. My father was the team dentist for the University of Miami for over 30 years, starting in the early 70s.
Wow.
So he was actually the first one. You're probably close to my age, Frank.
Yep.
Did you play with a rubber mouthpiece, or did you play with the mouthpiece that you put in hot boiling water and put in your mouth?
I played with the hot boiling water that I dipped in my mouth.
Okay. So the first mouthpiece I played with was a rubber mouthpiece. And as a quarterback, you definitely couldn't call an audible. I was only like 5, 6 years
Well, Lee,
old.
what we used to do is we'd cut those like in pieces just so so it looked like we had a mouthpiece, but you're right. You couldn't communicate.
Yeah.
So then you had the boiled, plastic and couldn't call. So what's interesting was, I'll never forget this. It was the early 70s. It might have been Carl Selmer or some coach for the University of Miami. They had 2 quarterbacks, and no one could understand the quarterback when they called audibles. So my dad heard this on the sideline, and he said, "You know what? People use mouth guards to sleep in. They're much thinner." He said, "I'm going to make a mold, and I'm going to make the quarterbacks these thin mouth guards." And sure enough, he did it, and they were able to keep it in their mouth the whole time and call audibles. And there was an article written about it in Sports Illustrated. So,
oh wow,
that's
really cool. I wish I'd have known. I wish I'd have known your dad, because I always felt like I was choking on mine.
Yeah.
Sometimes
and how about, it's like when you get X-rays at the dentist?
Oh yeah,
horrible when they do the back molars.
Oh yeah.
My dad and brother are dentists, and I think they like to torture me and extra special to do that. But also, I came away from the game, and I obviously, being a Miami fan, when I used to come home from Sunday school and I used to see the Notre Dame Fighting Irish highlights, hated it. Being a Miami fan, they used to beat us like 45-0.
Yeah.
But Marcus Freeman, if I had a kid and he was going to college to play football, he would be top 5. The way he handled that press conference, so impressive. He's like, give Miami credit. They were better, and they deserve to win, and no crying like Dabo, you know, about losing the game. So very impressed with him. Hard-fought game. That's what we love to see. We want to see, you know, Texas and Ohio State.
That's right.
We want to see the big games like Miami and Notre Dame. And that's why I like the SEC is going to the nine-game schedule. We're going to see more big games. But, you know, okay, if you have to have one directional school in there, you want to have one FCS opponent, but make sure you have at least one big-time opponent. Like Kansas State never used to schedule them under Bill Snyder. I mean, we didn't know till game 5 or 6 if they were any good. So I thought it was a fun weekend in college football.
No doubt about it, Lee. And there's no question when Miami is good, college football is better, right? And they're one of those programs, you know, like Notre Dame, like Alabama, like Florida State. It brings you back to your childhood. And you remember the glory days when they were winning 56 in a row before Washington came in there and snapped that win streak at the Orange Bowl. But, you know, Nick Saban said something as I was watching after the game with these teams, and especially these big high-profile games with, you know, some of them maybe surprises, but all the favorites lost. Some of the hype surrounding these great quarterbacks gone. But the difference between week 1 and week 2 is where you're going to see the biggest gains or teams fall off the planet. Alabama looks like they're going to fall off the planet. They didn't look like they were playing hard. North Carolina, another team. Gosh, I don't know how you overcome that. But teams like Ohio State, teams like Texas, teams like Notre Dame still have a great opportunity to make it to the tournament because there's 12 teams now or 10 teams now.
I love it. I think it's great, but I don't want to see it go to like 24. They go to 18 or 24. You're going to dilute it too much. But when Notre Dame's good, Miami's good, Washington, you know, nationally not as big. I am actually. So you know this, Frank. I come on with Softy. Been on with him for like 26 years, every single week. Now they have. DJ knows who this is, Mark Benarzik. He now uses the name Mark James. I told him
Frank knows him.
Yeah, you don't want to have a Polish last name in broadcasting. So I made him use the name James. I'm going to be doing a 1-hour handicapping show that starts next Friday with him, and it's going to start off regionally. Eventually, by maybe the middle of the season or next year, you could hear us on maybe 40, 50, 60 stations across the country, late Friday nights, early Saturday mornings.
Nice, man. That'll be great.
And you got to remember to ask him about that time he got stopped in Charlotte from the cop, you know, when he was speeding down South Boulevard. Just ask him about that. It'll bring back nightmares.
Well, and then ask him about how the first 5 minutes on the air, he called out the police officer and I yanked him off the air and sent him home. But no, Mark's
he might grow up, you know, when he's like 60.
Maybe. But he's a good dude. And he's a good dude. And he knows sports. So that's awesome. You'll be doing that. Let's jump into handicapping. So tonight in college football, we've got James Madison at Louisville. And I know usually people would probably look at that game and say, you know, who cares about James Madison? Louisville obviously had a good year last year, seemed to be a team on the rise. I think they're laying 14.5. But James Madison, they've got a good football team. And I know they've had a lot of turnover. But you know, they're a team now that you can't overlook. What do you think about that game tonight?
Yeah, since they moved to FBS level play in 2022, done a real good job here, 28-9 straight up. So this is a quality team here, solid, but their defense, they lost a lot of guys, and their defense against better teams last year, they gave up at least 30 points 4 times and even 50 points in that North Carolina game here. So they're going to have to the running back, number 3, Wayne Knight, big-time weapon here. But James Madison's using that 2-quarterback system. One of the quarterbacks, if you remember, Alonzo Barrett is the starter, but they bring in Matt Sluka. Who is he? He was the guy for UNLV that left after 4 games, said they weren't living up to their obligations, paying their NIL. So I think that they're fine, but I like Miller Moss. I actually was at ACC Media Days, and He came across as very impressive. I think he's smart. Just wasn't the right system for him. I think he found the right system, the right coach, and I think their skill players at running back, receiver are really good, and that's going to give James Madison a problem. I think they double up James Madison 42-21.
Lee, these primetime games that everybody, all the money comes in on, that's the way these buildings are built in Vegas,
right.
The high skyscrapers that continue to grow and, make billions of dollars. But, I don't find much value in those games because, your profession, they are so spot on with that hook, with that number, that it's really hard to win. Where I find value is some of these games like James Madison, or I find a team that I really like at the beginning of the season and I ride them until they become hot, like South Carolina. I think is going to be one of those teams that the country hasn't got a hold of yet, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, they're better than we are. We have to start adjusting lines.
Yeah, that's what I do. I study quarterbacks, being a former quarterback, and a lot of times I can see some things, like Arch Manning. Arch is fine, but what is he doing? Like trying to throw the ball side, throwing sidearm.
It's the Pat Mahomes style that they're teaching these guys now. That's
There's
crazy.
one Patrick Mahomes. I mean,
that's it.
You're trying a ball across the middle, unless a defensive lineman is jumping up to block it. You shouldn't be throwing a sidearm pass. So, the little note to these young kids and the parents that teach them there's only one Patrick Mahomes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. Let's move on to a local game here. Illinois at Duke. Illinois and Duke both off to wins their first week. Duke, you say you study quarterbacks, and they got the Tulane transfer, brought him in, started off a little slow last week, but then got it going. I know Illinois is a 2.5-point favorite, but Duke seems to always play tough at home and seem to be in every game. What do you think about that?
This is a tough game. Hint, it's not going to be given to my clients, but
yeah,
you picked it out, and we got to talk about it. I love Darian Mensah. There's like 5 or 6 transfer quarterbacks that are that good. He's a difference maker. He threw for 389 yards in the first game.
Yep.
Here's the problem. I don't think that they're balanced. I don't think they can run the ball consistently. So, Manny Diaz is great for this level. He's great for inspiring teams as an underdog. I think they'll be up for the game here. Illinois is very underrated. They returned 19 out of 22 starters. I think they're going to control the line of scrimmage here. They also won each of the last 4 games and even beat South Carolina in a bowl game here.
Yeah.
Here's what impresses me, and Frank loves this. They run the football, average almost 6 yards per carry in the first game, and on defense didn't allow more than 1 yard per carry. So you win the game up front, and that's like the reason why, going back to why like Washington ended Miami's streak in 94, Miami couldn't do anything against them. They controlled the line of scrimmage. And I think if Illinois plays up to what I think they will, they'll win the game. Do I like laying 3 points with Illinois? They're usually not good as a favorite, but I have them winning this game like 27-20. So I'll lay the points and hold my nose.
Lee, I'm sure a lot of what you do is based on trends, is based on, guys returning, things like that. I'm sure of it. That's the way anybody would do it. When you're making bets, you look at those things. When you're making lines, you look at those things. And when you're giving advice, I'm sure you're looking at them too. But my question is that, when we go back to the NCAA men's basketball tournament, I think there was trends that you can look at because of the NIL. How difficult and challenging has that been with these new players coming in, being able to predict, numbers and spreads and give advice?
So much tougher. I went 4-8 for my clients last week. I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to lie to you like some of these other handicappers, they're on a 18-1 run. I went 4-8, one of my worst opening weeks, and it was because I just misread some things that I assumed would happen. And I think it just takes more time. Like, let me give you an example. The University of Miami basketball program, you ready for this? They don't return one player from last year's team. New coach, I understand that. But, as a fan, you like that continuity. And there's something about, growing up in the system. You didn't start as a freshman, did you, Frank?
No.
Okay. If a lot of these parents, they'll tell their kids, oh, you're better than this kid. You're better than that kid. They should make it at most. You have one chance at a transfer at the most.
Yeah, I agree.
And I like the old rule, you got to sit out a year. So if you want to allow one transfer, give them one time, but the second time, no dice. There's a quarterback that just got picked up by Georgia State on Monday, TJ Finley. I don't know if you remember his name.
He played at NC State, didn't he?
No, played at Auburn his first year.
Okay.
Then he transfers to LSU, and I think he played in a game or two. And this kid's like 6'5", 6'6", monster. Played in a game or two for each school, each of the first years. Big schools, Auburn and LSU.
Yep.
Then he goes to Texas State and has incredible success 2 years ago. He leaves and goes to Western Kentucky, doesn't even start, and now Georgia State picked him up. He sat in the portal until just now.
Wow.
More than half the kids, 65% of the kids never find another home. So he's now at Georgia State. He's in his fifth school.
Wow. And, the portal's got to make it tough when you're handicapping because of the turnover every year. I mean, we were talking about UNC Charlotte App State game last week, and I think UNC Charlotte had 44 new players. We talked about the Tar Heels who got their butts whooped. I think Belichick had more than that. I want to say it was like 70 something.
Yeah, 70. I think it was 70 was the
so,
number.
It's got to make it even tougher. And I know that this isn't something you just do during football. I know you work on this all year round, so you stay on top of it. But the transfer portal's got to make it more difficult to handicap these games.
Almost next to impossible, but
yeah,
at least now I have a week under my belt to see things.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's move on to the biggest game of the weekend as far as when you look at rankings is Michigan at Oklahoma. Oklahoma right now is a 5.5-point favorite. To me, Oklahoma's got a lot to prove because I think, their coach certainly knows how to get them to play defense, and that's what he's known for. But on the offensive side of the ball, he's left a little to be desired. I think this year he's probably got the best offensive crew that he's had when you look at their receivers, running backs, and quarterback. But Michigan's coming in
number one quarterback recruit,
the number one quarterback recruit. They flipped him from LSU, gave him a ton of money. I want to say it was like $10 million or something crazy like that. What do you think on this game? I think, everyone seems to be leaning Oklahoma. Does Michigan even have a shot?
I think they do. I love John Mateer. I mean, he's one of the top 5 transfer quarterbacks, and used to watch him late at night with Washington State. He beat Frank's Huskies last year. I mean, basically by himself, running and throwing the ball, just willing his team to a win. But as good as he is, and he might keep him in this game, they might find a way to win. Do you really want to lay 5 points for a team that's probably not going to win it in the trenches? Michigan last year went to Ohio State and dominated play, believe it or not, against the national champions. I think that Michigan has that potential again on their offensive and defensive lines. But Bryce Underwood he's the real deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in the first week, they did not run him at all. He has the potential to run a lot. They did not have one running play. If you like to play college player props, play the over on run attempts and also running yards. I think he'll probably run the ball at least 7-8 times for 50, 60 yards. Hint, hint. Also, Justice Haynes, who they brought from Alabama. One of the problems Alabama had, their running backs looked pedestrian. He was the guy, and he came into his own. He had almost 160 yards rushing last week in their win against New Mexico, where they showed nothing. Yeah. And OU, even though they won 35-3, they only had 103 rushing yards last week on 32 carries. That's not going to get it done here. I could see OU winning 24-23, but I think you take the points in Michigan. 5 points is a lot in two teams that are this could be a snobber knocker and probably decided on the last drive by either team.
And before we give away all your picks in college football, let's move to the NFL real quick. Okay. And the big boy football starting this week, and we saw a first example of last night. Great game, but there's a lot of teams out here, and I've talked to DJ with this. I want to get your take on it, having played the position as well. I think everybody gets better incrementally at the same amount of speed because of free agency. Because you're going to draft a little bit higher, you're going to have a little bit chance, but you're also a worse team. So incrementally, every team in the offseason feels like they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Which team to you? Because I think that what my argument is to him is, yes, that's the case. But when you look at this position, specifically, that's the one that's going to make everybody around them better. And that's quarterback. Which quarterback in the NFL this year do you expect to make their team better? Not the Allens, not because we know they're already the margin, not those guys, but the guys that are coming up. The Penix. We have one here in Bryce Young. Which guys are going to help their team win those 2 or 3 more games in the NFL?
So those guys are going to get better. I think the guy at Chicago is going to be Williams. So why do I say that? I think they probably got the best coach in the NFL that was available. Wasn't even close. So when you get a guy that can really coach up quarterbacks and just felt, I mean, look what he did in Detroit. I mean, a guy that was totally mentally done, I thought. He brought him back and made him a top 5, top 7, top 8 quarterback. So I just think that this is a situation where they're going to have a lot of success, and they also put some really good pieces around him. So he's a little bit weird. I'm not one for backing guys the quarterbacks that paint their fingernails, but not my style. But
well, let's start with that. Even though it's a Monday night game, but that's one of the games I was going to ask you about. The Vikings travel to the Bears, and the Vikings are another team. Talent on both sides of the ball, had a great year last year, but they're going to start J.J. McCarthy, who basically is a rookie. After missing last year with an injury. But Minnesota's got talent on both sides of the ball, and you mentioned it, Lee. The Bears have added a lot. They've got Odunze at receiver. They drafted Burton. They've got 2 great tight ends, and Commit, and then Colson, who I think is going to be great. They've got 2 good running backs. Swift had his best year in the NFL when he was on Detroit under Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator. So I think this will be an entertaining game, and it'll be interesting to see what Caleb Williams does. Who do you like in this game?
So I do believe Kevin O'Connell, also from Minnesota, one of the really good coaches out there. And they've only had 2 losses. How many times do you have 2 losses and you got to play as a wild card? May not ever see that again. But here's the problem for them: rookie quarterback. Well, he didn't play last year,
right?
Relatively, who never started a game, starting on the road and without Jordan Addison. If they had Jordan Addison, might be able to get the job done. I think Chicago is going to surprise people. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but I like them as a home dog here. I like Chicago 23-17 over Minnesota.
Well, Lee, I think the thing that most people maybe not understand when you go on the road is the playing conditions. When you go to Chicago, the wind is not in your face or at your back. It's like when you go to a golf course and the wind is blowing from left to right. It's a completely different feel for where the quarterback has to start the ball to where it finishes. It's also a different look for when the receiver's trying to catch a ball. Right. So I think those things at this stadium factor into it. And the team that runs the ball in this game, like, Lee was pointing out earlier, with some of the good teams that win games, you have to be able to run the ball in Chicago. So, or have experience, having that, that feel for a quarterback like Caleb Williams has, because he's played there for a year now.
What about kickers too, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kickers. I was on the field last year. My daughter had sang the national anthem last couple of years in Chicago. So I was on the field in the first quarter, talking to a couple executives for the Bears. And I noticed that about the wind. When you throw into the wind, I didn't realize how strong an arm someone like Sam Darnold had.
That's right.
People don't even talk about him as having a real strong arm. He was throwing the ball into the wind, and the ball was whistling.
Yeah.
So that just shows you the difference between like a college quarterback and a normal college and an NFL quarterback. And he had a good game because he had experience, and they were playing a not so great team. But it was fun to watch that new experience. That's why, if they move that field, Soldier Field, out to the racetrack, it's not going to get it done. There's something special about going into a stadium like that. Like I told my daughter before she sang the first time, you sing in a place like Miami or something, or LA, everyone's, getting there late, they're talking. When you go to Chicago or one of these places with a lot of tradition like Green Bay, they're in their seats 5 to 10 minutes before the game, and they have their hats off. They're patriotic, and that's what it's all about. And that would be a shame if that stadium goes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tonight we've got another game, Kansas City and the Chargers. Kansas City -3.5. This game's in Brazil. Frank and I discussed this a little earlier. We don't know why the hell the NFL thinks it's a good idea to go to Brazil, but they have.
The beaches.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's plenty to do when you're not on the football field. But, Kansas City coming in, obviously, after losing in the Super Bowl, but still talent everywhere and one of the best coaches probably in the history of the NFL and Andy Reid. But the Chargers, a team with Jim Harbaugh comes in last year and they just keep adding pieces and adding pieces. They're going to be well coached. They're going to run the ball with Hampton, the rookie out of North Carolina. And for some reason, I think the Chargers are going to beat them tonight. What are your thoughts on that?
So I use what I see, and also I use a lot of math involved in what I do. The Chiefs are coming down to earth. So look at this. I did this in the offseason. Look at numbers. In 2022, they averaged 6.3 yards per play. Number one in the NFL. 23 averaged 5.6 yards per play. Number 9 NFL. Last year, 5.1 yards per play. That's 22nd in the NFL.
Wow.
Give you some perspective. The Jets stink on offense. They average 5.2, more than the Chiefs. Even the Chargers, who are not real good offensively, average 5.4 yards per play. Now, obviously, Justin Herbert hasn't gotten it done yet. Maybe because he's a duck, that could be part of it, right, Frank?
That's it. That's for sure.
He's talented. And I think after you play for Jim Harbaugh for a while, you start to take over his mentality and learn things. And it's a process here. They're putting things together, putting the pieces around him. I think he's going to gain the confidence here, playing on a field, a soccer field, so kickers could be affected in this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I have the Chargers pulling the upset here, 23-21.
Yeah, it's going to be a running type of game. Anytime you play with Harbaugh, whether he's at San Francisco or at Michigan, that's the first thing he's going to do is establish the run and then let the quarterback throw off of that. So I agree with you on that. That team's going to be improved because they're going to take some pressure off of Herbert and lean on some of those big guys up front. The Panthers. Let's get into that. I know that my friend over here is the pom-pom guy. He's this team is going to be a Super Bowl team in 2 years, and
I didn't say that.
I'm exaggerating, obviously, but what should be our expectations for the Panthers? Because they get better, but I think just so much relies on Bryce Young and him improving at that position as the number one overall pick to make guys around you better. But this team is so young. When should we expect that?
I think it's a slow building process with this team. They, maybe, shouldn't have traded Thielen because of the injury now. So they're a little depth shy and talent shy, I think, at receiver. And defense, third downs. They were not able to get off the field last year. I mean, you allow teams to succeed more than 50% of the time. Now, the return of Derek Brown's going to help. And they've added some pieces there, through free agency. But are they good enough to get into the mid to upper 30s? I don't think so. I was watching Trevor Lawrence in the preseason because he came off off-season shoulder surgery, played 6 possessions in the 3 preseason games, played him in every game. I thought he looked good, and I think that he knows he's playing for a contract. He's either going to get, a nice extension and be there for a while, or they're going to cut bait with him. So I think the motivation is big. As you know, Frank, NFL players, you get into that contract year, that's it. It's all about the money.
Jerry Maguire.
You don't play well, but usually you see your best year then. I like Jacksonville. I like their coach, Liam Cohen. Here's a stat. We all see plenty of time to look at things. Rookie coaches playing in their first game when they are a favorite since 2017 has only happened 5 times. That's it. 5 times, 5-0 against the spread.
Wow.
Moves to 6-0. Hate to say it.
Thanks for the good news.
I can't stand Jacksonville fans. They're always chanting that Duval.
Yeah.
They're trying to. That's a play on the 305.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I think Jacksonville wins as well. I hate to say it, but I think if the Panthers are going to win, there's 2 things that have to happen. Number one, I think that the offense has to get off to a quick start. Yep. And Bryce has had 2 seasons under his belt, and his first
hasn't played in the preseason except 3 snaps in 2 years.
His first pass his first pass in both of the first games of his career, he threw a pick. So
Right.
I think they're going to have to get off to a good start. And then you mentioned it, Lee. I think on defense, they got to get off on third down, and they did add a lot of pieces of that defensive line. They've added 2 rookie defensive ends.
Young.
So they're all, yes, but we're going to have to see. Dan Morgan nailed the offensive line last year. When he fixed that, hopefully he nailed the defensive line. If he did, I think they've got a chance to at least be decent.
When you played in the NFL, when you started, how many preseason games were there?
There was 4. And actually, I played in 5 my first year because we had the Hall of Fame game.
Oh,
so right. I was there in the beginning of August, for training camp, just because they gave the expansion teams an extra week, and on top of that, we were playing in the Hall of Fame game against Jacksonville.
It also took Frank longer to get to camp. The horse and wagons that they took back in the day, they had to account for that as well.
But what is that? The trail,
the Oregon Trail.
The Oregon, it was the backward Oregon Trail. He was moving against the wind.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there was 6 preseason games. 6.
Wow.
I remember going to Dolphins, 6 preseason games. And how about this? We got our insurance from Dick Anderson. He used to sell insurance in the offseason.
Dick Anderson.
The banker at my bank was Jim Langer, the Hall of Fame center. I mean, I remember other guys selling cars in the offseason. You got in shape during the preseason. Not anymore. You stay in shape all season long.
And you know what? We're probably going to see the NFL go to 2 preseason games pretty soon. That seems to be coming, and we'll see. But hopefully the Panthers can make that game. Jacksonville whooped them last year in Jacksonville as well. So
the heat is real down there.
And
the humidity,
is real, no doubt.
Once you get off that plane, I don't care how hot it is where you're from, it is a different feel in South Florida.
Yeah, no doubt. 2 more games I want to talk about. This one's one that is my favorite upset special of the week. So if you're listening or watching, go against me because I've obviously started off cold. Giants at Washington. Washington's 5.5-point favorite. Obviously, Jaden Daniels at quarterback is the real deal. Unbelievable rookie year. But I believe they're getting older on defense. They won 5 games, if I'm not mistaken, last year in the fourth quarter, including a Hail Mary. So they pulled a lot of games.
But they score some points.
They do. And listen, they're McLaurin will be back.
Take the over.
Well, but I think the Giants, their defensive line is top 3 or 4 in the NFL. Abdul Carter is going to be a beast. I think they've got weapons now on offense. I think it's going to come down to, can Russell Wilson still play? I don't know if he can or not. I think Jackson Dart's the future, but I think I think they hope to hold him off for 6, 7, 8 games and longer if Russell can get it done. But something tells me the Giants are going to go into Washington and beat them.
So I'm taking the points also, but I think Washington's going to win 36-34. Not giving it out to my clients. I very rarely go against top tier quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You go against guys like Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. In the long run, you're going to be living under a bridge, and we don't want to do that. That's the idea, is to own properties, not be living under the bridge.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that Washington does have some weaknesses. Everything went right last year. I think the Giants are going to be able to get some sacks, but also give up some big plays because Daniels is that good. When he came out, I said he had the best accuracy for quarterback I've seen in the last 20 years. So I think the Giants are going to score big, but maybe Daniels leads them to a win 36-34, but I'd take the points also.
The shirt that I'm wearing right now,
that's the game I was going to ask about.
Is not indicative of necessarily where I played or anything like that. But my son, his heart's there. So as a dad, I support. I have good friends that love the Steelers. We own a Steelers bar and Panthers bar. But Aaron Rodgers coming to the Steelers and Metcalf as well. You lose. I felt like the cancer when you let the wide receiver go. But you gained a really good player. I'm not sure that Aaron Rodgers, even as talented as he is a great leader, right? And I'm not sure what Tomlin sees in that, but he does, and there we are. But how are the Steelers going to do this year? Because with J.J. Watt or T.J. Watt, This defense is a completely different defense. When he plays, they win games. When he doesn't, they lose games. That's the catalyst of the defensive side for sure. But they lost some big players in the middle as well, and it'll be interesting to see, kind of that whole dynamic.
Well, and their opening game is interesting because you got the Steelers at the Jets, so you got where Aaron Rodgers was the last couple of years, and then they're starting in New York with Justin Fields, who was with the Steelers. So there's a lot of storylines in that game. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that game?
I think the running and the escapability of Justin Fields might be the difference here. I mean, only threw one interception, even though he's on a short leash last year, and 161 pass attempts. And it might take, this Steelers team with Aaron Rodgers a little while to feel and start clicking on all cylinders. And Metcalf is almost unguardable. Some of these guys, they're so big and strong and fast, you can't guard them with one guy. So you can say whatever you want about the great cornerbacks. There's maybe 6 or 7 guys in the history of the NFL, the last 40, 50 years, that can guard players like this. So they're going to play a lot of zone. They want to keep things underneath, do the Jets. That's what they do. But I think Justin Fields scrambling, might be the difference in this game. I take the Jets low-scoring game. They win something like 20-17.
Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. Lee, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Just go to the website, ParamountSports.com. We do it all. We do UFC. Had a great run recently there. Won 11 of the last 14 cards. UFC Paris starts tomorrow, 12 noon. 5 selections, $35 there. And we have a 35-unit max wager underdog. We've hit each of the last 5 cards an underdog of anywhere between plus 150 and plus 500. So
nice.
There's services out there. I mean, you see these guys that are jokes, the guys that Vegas Dave's giving minus
Vegas
700.
Dave.
I want you to play the Cowboys in the 90s. They're going to be playing the expansion Panthers in the first game. I like them to win. You know, you can't do that. So 5 selections, $35 here. And in football, we've made our hay on hitting big games. We rate them from 10 to 50 units. We have a 40 to 50 unit max wager in college football game. I think the line's off 7 to 10 points. We're historically, get this, 71-28 in our career on 40 to 50 unit max wagers. So check out all the specials, ParamountSports.com. I also do a podcast on the Locked On Network. People are starting to podcasting. What it's all about. It's what you're doing now here.
Yeah.
You're successful. So the Locked On Network is by far the biggest, podcast network for sports. They have a podcast for every single professional and college team. I do the only gambling podcast there. It's Monday through Friday, usually released about 10 o'clock in the morning, and generally about 20 to 25 minutes with my co-host, Kevin Rogers. We give away 4 to 5 free games every single day. So just go to YouTube, type in 3 words, Locked On Bets, click subscribe. You'll receive a notice every single day when the podcast goes live, and you can watch it and listen on YouTube, or also check it out on Apple or Spotify. So, built the new center here. We call it the Paramount Sports Center. So, you want to check it out, and so many different ways to listen and get involved. ParamountSports.com.
Well, Lee, it's always great catching up with you, and I've done very well on your 50-unit games that you've had in the past. So keep it up, buddy. You do great.
Thanks, guys. Take care. I'll send it to you right now. So get on it early.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, and tell Mark we said what's up.
I sure will. See you guys.
Okay,
anything, Frank, for Softy?
Just tell him hi. And I have a great story with him back in college. I was running. He was one of the guys that monitored us as we were running our mile test. And he knew that I had a little short legs and I hated running the mile, but I had earned the right not to run. And he kind of gave me the pass. Oh yeah, I saw you run that, Garcia. I didn't have to run the mile I sent you because of him. So tell him I appreciate that.
You know this. So Softy one time lost a bet when they were playing Washington State. Yeah, I don't think he said on the air that if they lost to Washington State, he'll get on a bike and ride to Pullman. Well, after the season, he got on a bike. I think it took like 4 days. Yeah. I think he lost 25 pounds. Like that. So,
well, tell him I said hello. Tell him I said hello too.
I will.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Lee.
See you guys.
Now, Frank and I are going to run through the divisions real quick, give you our division winners and our Super Bowl pick. pick a couple college games ourselves, and then get into the Panther game for.
You got the games to pick out the 5 games already, or are we going to? So what we used to do on the show when Lee would come on, Mark Yarbrough and myself, we'd sit there and we'd pick our pick. We'd have our picks before the season started, but I like the fact that it's just you and I, and we're doing the same game.
Yeah.
Right. Versus I get 5, you can pick any 5 you want from college or pro.
Yep.
Just because we'd take a lot of these games that nobody really cares about, just because we thought that there was going to be a good win for us.
Yep.
I want to talk about the games that matter and see how good we do at those.
Yep. No doubt. And we'll do that. And let's start off real quick with division winners. All right. And we'll go through this fast. So
a division winner and a team that could shock.
Correct. Okay. Division winner and a sleeper. So
a sleeper.
AFC East, I've got the Bills. I just think that, that they've been knocking on the door. They've won the division. This has been their division now for a while, knocking on the door of a Super Bowl. I've got the Bills as a division winner, and my sleeper is New England. I think that you got Vrabel in there. You got Drake May at quarterback. You got Trayvon Henderson at running back. The defense is much improved. So if there is a team in the NFC East, I mean, the AFC East, I think that Patriots could maybe surprise people. I know a lot of people think the Jets as well, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. But I've got the Bills as my winner, and I got the Patriots as my sleeper.
And in the East division, I mean, it's hard not to pick the Bills. I don't know if they're the Tom Brady Patriots, where they won like 15, straight division championships in a row, or 18 or whatever it was, and he was there. They didn't lose the division, except for maybe that one year when Brady got hurt and Matt Castle came in like 2005 or 6 or whatever it was. But since then they won I think the Bills are kind of with, Josh Allen going to be that dominant in this division as long as he's there. So I like the Bills, obviously. I think they have a really good chance to be the representative in the AFC and the Super Bowl, and maybe even get one this year if they handle business. When you look at the team that is coming up in that division, I would probably Miami's just they're in disarray. I guess it would have to be the Patriots as well. Vrabel is he's going to bring that toughness and that grit that maybe they were missing. And I just want to root for Drake May. I think he's a heck of a kid. Got to see him, growing up.
We coached against him in baseball.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I would agree with you on both of those.
Okay, great. So we got the same on that one.
Very rare that happens.
I was going to say, I bet you it doesn't happen many other times. AFC North, I've got the Ravens again. I think, and you got that division's. Cleveland's
that's loaded. That may be the best division in football.
Cleveland's going to stink.
Okay, Cleveland sucks.
Cincinnati's going to score. They're not going to stop anybody.
We don't know.
And then Pittsburgh, who is my sleeper, because I think Pittsburgh. You talked about this with Lee. It's going to come down to Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers can still play, and if he can stay healthy, which I think is the biggest concern, I think everyone knows he can still sling it. It's just, can he stay healthy? He's had a hard time doing that in the last couple of years. Then I think they've got a chance to be a sleeper in that division and maybe upset Baltimore. But Lamar Jackson coming off a great season, they're going to play great defense. So I've got Baltimore as the division winner and Pittsburgh as my sleeper.
I think Baltimore has the most talent surrounding their quarterback. Unfortunately, I don't feel like their quarterback has been able to win the big game, whether it be against Buffalo or, believe it or not, even the Steelers. 6-2 with Lamar Jackson as a starting quarterback. He won the very first game they ever played against each other, right? When he was first there, it might be 8-2. I don't know, 7. They've only won twice. And last year was the other time that they won. They split. But other than that, the Steelers have owned the Baltimore Ravens in this division. This team that have given them the trouble the most are the Bengals, because of their passing game and things like that. It's, however, when you look at this division and you take the overall record and you say who's going to win more games, Baltimore's a better team.
Yeah.
Baltimore to me still is a better team, even though I'm representing the Steelers flag right here, with their shirt. But the Steelers are the second best team. But I don't think it's as far as what everybody thinks it is. I think Steelers could easily win that division. And, there may be some shakeups in Baltimore when that happens.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to see Baltimore play. We didn't talk about this game with Lee, but Baltimore starts off the year with Buffalo at Buffalo. So it's a rematch of that game last year. Where,
that's a great matchup.
Mark Andrews dropped the ball that should have been a touchdown. So that'll be a fun game to watch. AFC South, I've got the Texans. That division, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Tennessee, I've got the Texans to win it. I think that their defense is going to be great. I think Stroud is going to rebound a little bit off of maybe a less than stellar year last year after a great rookie campaign. But I've got the Texans, and I've got Tennessee as my sleeper. I think they're going to play really good defense, and I think Cam Ward is going to come in and surprise a lot of people. It's not often that you see rookie quarterbacks come in and do something special in their first year, but we saw it with Jaden Daniels last year. And I'm not saying that Cam Ward is Jaden Daniels, but I do think Cam Ward could be a special quarterback. He's got good running game. Calvin Ridley seems to be reborn at receiver with him there. I think you're going to see a lot of deep balls with those guys. So Tennessee's my sleeper team.
We know how you like those deep balls.
Yeah, well, if Cam Ward's throwing them, I think they're going to be all right. So Tennessee's my sleeper there.
I agree with you. Houston, I think, has the best defense in the entire NFL. D'Amico Ryans almost won with that defense last year, and the way that they came out on fire. They won a game. They shocked a lot of people, and they should have were very competitive in the second round of the playoffs last year. I think they're going to grow. I think he does a hell of a job. I think he has the heartbeat of the team. I think they want to play hard for him, and it's an extension of an ex-player, being a head coach. And you're seeing a lot of that nowadays with guys that are coming on and really playing hard for their coach because they respect him a lot and they want to do right by him. So I agree with you. Houston's going to be the best team, but I would say this in my sleeper, this team has been banged up the last couple of years. They really don't, if they stay healthy, right? The Colts are the team to beat in that division. The Colts are the team.
You think Daniel Jones finds new life in Indianapolis?
Daniel Jones has never really been the quarterback that's going to be able to sling it and throw it everywhere. But they have a healthy running back who is back this year.
Taylor's healthy, yeah.
And he, when healthy, is the best running back, second best running back in the NFL behind Saquon Barkley.
Wow. Okay. Indianapolis definitely, they've got a solid defense as well, so not a bad pick.
And they have they have one of the best offensive linemen in the game. Underrated offense and defensive line play for the Colts is very good. Where they've struggled is scoring. And stopping guys in the passing game. So, it's a great matchup because there's not really a team in that division that throws the ball all over the place. And that's the reason why I'm choosing them.
All right. Well, so you got the Colts as your sleeper. I've got the Tennessee Titans as mine. Let's move on to the AFC East. This has been Kansas City's division for quite some time, but not anymore. As much as I can't stand Sean Payton, he's a great coach. And
they were coming.
And their defense is legit. Bo Nix with a very good rookie campaign, and he's got weapons everywhere. Rookie running back RJ Harvey, I think, is going to be a guy to keep an eye on. I've got Denver winning the division, and I've got the Raiders as my sleeper team. Pete Carroll.
What?
Yeah, I got the Raiders.
Kansas City's out? Or are they a wild card team?
I'm just saying as my sleeper team that you could see.
Oh, you'd have Denver winning?
I got Denver winning the division.
So that would mean Kansas City's. Oh, so
I'm just saying
that doesn't mean that you think that they're going to be better than Kansas City. You just think they're going to be better than what people think.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are going to be better than what people think in that division.
Okay, I can live with that assessment. I thought you thought that they were going to be better than the Chiefs.
No, I don't think that.
Okay.
No, but I think you got Pete Carroll there. You got Geno Smith now, so they've got a solid quarterback. You got Genty, the running back, the rookie out of Boise State, who I think is going to be a stud. You got Devontae Adams at receiver. I think that if their defense can, obviously they got Max Crosby at defensive end, one of the best in the league. I just think the Raiders are going to make some hay this year. It's been a long time. I think it's been a long time since they've been well coached. It's been a long time since they've had a consistent quarterback, and Geno Smith has turned himself into that. So I think Pete Carroll is going to surprise some people, and I think Raiders are going to be better than people think.
It's funny you say that because Pete Carroll is probably one of the quirkiest guys you've ever met in your entire life. I don't know if it's a documentary, but I was watching a special or listening to how maybe it was on NFL radio on, when they were going around the leagues and the camps. And one of the guys was talking about Pete Carroll specifically and some of the routines that he has his guys go through. Like he'll be talking with you and all of a sudden, have some guy be banging a drum as he's talking. Yeah. Right. And the reason for that is he wants to emulate game time situations, in everything that they do, right? They want those distractions because, when they're going through practice, it's never quiet, right? You always have some sort of fans talking. You have whatever the distractions might be. So he wants to make that an everyday thing. I don't know if that's going to carry over. It worked for him at USC, but he also had maybe arguably the greatest team ever in college football when he was winning there. In Seattle, he had an incredibly good defense.
But he built that team.
He did it, but it took him time.
Yeah.
And for the Raiders, they don't have that defense. They're not there yet. The Broncos are better. Kansas City's a better defense in that division. Arizona is not in that division, but they used to be. I'm blanking on the San Diego
Chargers.
The San Diego is the team for me that because Harbaugh knows how to win. Right, he is a quarterback whisperer everywhere he's been.
Yeah,
he's made Colin Kaepernick look good. He's made he won a national championship at Michigan. People are going to say he cheats. Oh, well, everybody cheats, right? And Bill Belichick cheats. He's considered the greatest of all time. Every one of these coaches cheat and try to get an edge. Michigan just got caught because they have all the money in the world with, the guy from
Dave Portnoy.
Portnoy from so they could throw money and have these Secret Service guys go around and spy on other teams. But he's won everywhere he's been. That's not going to be a different here. He's a quarterback whisperer. He knows how to play the game. He played the position. He's going to build a good offensive line. He's going to build a good defensive line. He built the San Francisco Chargers to be the team they were 4 or 5 years ago. He built the Michigan Wolverines to dominate on both sides of the ball. He understands how to build a house and the structure of the house. He has a quarterback that has all the ability in the world, just hasn't lived up to that potential, but he's not going to ask him to. He's going to ask him to run the football, make plays in the passing game, and don't make mistakes, right? And that's the reason why.
So they're your sleeper team?
I think they're going to be my sleeper team in this division. I love Denver, by the way.
But who's going to win the division?
Kansas City's still going to win the division. As long as they have Mahomes and they have Andy Reid. Andy Reid is arguably the most underrated coach in the history of the NFL. He just wins, doesn't matter where he's at. I think the players love him. I think they play hard for him. He knows how to win. His mind in crucial situations, it's thinks faster than everybody else's. I don't think he gets enough credit for that, especially with some of the play designs. In the Super Bowl last year, I don't remember if I pointed out to you, but one of the plays designed, to get a guy wide open, he knew exactly what the defense was going to do. He still likes to be a little bit flashy with that college style. But he's incorporated that college style into the pros because he has a quarterback that is dynamic. Yep. So, I think Worthy is the guy that just going to take the top off. I think he's going to have a huge year. He might be in the running for one of the players of the year if Andy Reid, because of Andy Reid, is going to know how to get him the ball, and he's not going to shy away from that. So very similar to what Tyreek Hill did. He's faster than Tyreek Hill. He's not as explosive as Tyreek Hill. But that'll be a great dynamic to watch. But Kansas City, and if I had to say, it's really hard because I don't think the Chargers are there yet because defensively they have some good defensive players too. I mean, Bosa, Derwin James, they have some pieces in there. And I'm going to roll with them. I think I'm going to take San Diego, but it's a close pick between them and Denver because I love Peyton and what he's doing. Bo Nix is
that division's going to be tough.
Bo Nix is the more athletic version of Drew Brees.
Yeah, but Bo Nix had a great rookie year.
Yep.
NFC East, I've got the Eagles winning the division again. I just think they're loaded. I mean, we saw it last night. I mean, offensively, they're going to be tough to beat. Best offensive line of football, best running back in football, quarterback that can run and throw the ball, 2 all-pro receivers. So I got the Eagles winning the division, and my sleeper in that one's going to be the Giants. Their over-under for wins this year is only 5.5. They've got a brutal schedule. I don't know if Russell Wilson's going to be able to stay healthy or play well when he is healthy, but I do know
Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I think their defense.
Russell Wilson is washed up, buddy.
Well, we're gonna find out.
He's washed up. I saw him all last year, and his arm is noodle. He plays the game like a mobile quarterback that doesn't have any legs anymore.
Well, you know what? I don't disagree with you. I think Jackson Dart's sitting there ready to roll when they're ready. Jackson Dart
will be the starter, and they will be a better team when he comes in. Because of his youth and his ability to
and he can run the ball and throw the ball. But I do think that on the defensive side of the ball, the Giants defensive line is one of the best in the league. They're going to get after the quarterback. So I think Washington's going to take a step back this year. Like I said, I think their defense is just another year older. Oldest roster in the league, I believe, and one of the oldest rosters ever. Somebody told us ever captured on whatever stat that is. So I've got the Eagles and the Giants. Who you got?
Everybody thought that about the Redskins last year until what? the quarterback stepped up and looked like
great quarterback,
looked like the MVP of the league with the run that they had in the playoffs. They don't have much for the running game. Eckler's going to be a guy that they can go to, throw the scats and the dump offs. But Jaden Daniels is the guy. He might be my favorite player. And you were spot on when coming out of LSU. I remember you telling me, watch this guy. I'm like, you know what? He's too thin. He's not going to make it. He's this, he's that. I always made the excuses of why I didn't think he was going to succeed. And I'll tell you what, he's proven me wrong, because last year he was dissecting really, really good defenses. And the only reason they lost is because they got outscored, right? Because their defense was so bad. Yeah, Bobby Wagner that was there, 150 years old. He can't cover anymore. He's a downhill player. Nobody runs the ball in that division except for, maybe the Giants. So they're really kind of, they've lost that. I still think the Eagles are the best team, arguably in the world. For the life of me, I don't understand why Jalen Hurts doesn't get more credit for being a really good quarterback.
I agree.
He's maybe not has the best arm. He may not have the best this. He may not have the best that, but damn, he's a winner. He has a lot of Lenore Sellers has a lot of him and the way they play. When the moment is the biggest, he steps up the brightest, and they make plays. Football plays to win, whether it's running the ball or throwing the ball. He makes the right decisions. He's a great decision maker. The teammates love him. They have the biggest offensive line, the best offensive line in football. As long as they don't spit on people during the game or before the game, they have a good defensive line. I think they've lost some things from last year. The depth in particular, they didn't get any pass rush last night, when they were playing zone defenses, only rushing 4. And I think that may be a challenge when they play teams like Washington or teams that can sit back and dissect you throwing the ball. But I think they're still the winner of this division. The Cowboys last night played hard.
They did. They played well,
hard, and
they looked good on offense.
I thought they were going to quit when they let their best player go, Micah Parsons. They played better.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones, as crazy as that sounded, he was right. They played better as a defense last night. They might have been motivated because somebody spits on me, we're fighting.
Right.
And my buddy better be fighting with me.
Yep.
Because we just got disrespected as a team, regardless of where it was at and what all the things that took place. But that was a dogfight. That was a rivalry game last night. It
was.
People fighting after the plays, pushing and shoving, that extra shove. It was a great game to start off the season, but they're I'm not a big believer in Dak Prescott. They played great last night. They just don't have enough. CeeDee Lamb dropped the pass to maybe take them to the next game, the next level, and put them in a position to tie the game up, if not win it. They just don't have enough of those playmakers.
So you got the Redskins, or your
who else we got in that division?
Giants, Redskins, or the Cowboys?
Giants, Redskins, There's another team in that division. Who is it? Giants, Redskins, Giants, Redskins, Cowboys, Eagles. Yeah.
You pick the Eagles.
Yeah, I'd pick the Eagles. Yeah, you're right. I would probably. Yeah, I'm just Giants. I can't. They're too far. I'd probably go the Redskins as my sleeper.
All right, got that. NFC North, I've got the Packers. I think that they're the youngest roster in football. They gave Philadelphia all they wanted in the playoffs last year. They add Micah Parsons on defense, which is going to be a huge addition. I've got Green Bay winning the division, and I've got the Bears as my sleeper for a lot of the reasons that Lee talked about. Just a new head coach. They've got a lot of weapons on offense, and if anyone's going to make
not Detroit, huh?
No, I think Detroit might take a little step back.
Or Minnesota.
Nope. I don't like having JJ McCarthy at quarterback. I just don't trust him. I wasn't high on him coming out of the draft.
They won with Sam Darnold.
They did. But Sam Darnold can sling it. I'm not so sure JJ McCarthy can. In college, if you remember, even when they won the national championship, he didn't throw the ball much. Now he didn't have to because they couldn't stop the run. But I think the Bears are going to be the sleeper team there, and I think Green Bay wins the division.
I think Green Bay is the best team in division. They may be the best team. They may be ready. They were young. Last year, Love, if he stays healthy, I know he got hurt, right before the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
They added Micah Parsons. They have some great pieces. They fly around the football. They play in a hostile environment where they're always going to have home field advantage because I don't care where you're at. The other places in that division, for the most part, other than the Bears, are in a dome. The Lions and the Vikings both play in a dome. But when you take your body outside and you put people in an environment that they're not used to that freezing cold, it's gonna pay a pounding on. In Green Bay, their blood's gonna be thick and they're gonna be ready to roll because their fans are gonna be in their seats and the brews are gonna be flowing. So Green Bay's my division winner in that one. I think that they're ready to take that next step. They have a good running game. They have some playmakers and they're hungry after getting knocked out after last year. I think Minnesota is going to take a step back as well, but I do think that Detroit is, the second best team in that division. As a sleeper coming up, who's going to get better? It's hard not to say just because those other teams won 12 games, 13 games last year.
Yeah.
The Bears didn't really do that, so I think they'll win more games. But I still think they're going to be the fourth best team in that division.
Yeah, that's a tough division. If the Bears do get better, then that division is going to be really tough. NFC West, I'm going to skip the South because we'll do that last when we talk about the Panthers. NFC West, I've got the Rams. Sean McVay, just a great head coach, talent everywhere. The one thing that does scare me is Matt Stafford. He's had back issues all off season, a couple epidurals. I can relate to all that. So the fact that he's going to be able to play now, I don't see how he's going to be able to take a hit and be able to move his legs, to be honest with you. But assuming he stays healthy, I think the Rams defense is great. They've got the two young defensive ends. I've got the Rams winning the division, and then my sleeper there is the Seahawks. I think you talked about Sam Darnold. They bring Sam Darnold in to replace Geno Smith. They've got running backs. They've got receivers. They gave up Metcalf, but I still think that they're.
How would you like to be Darnold? Yeah, I'm coming to the Seahawks. Woo, I got to throw to Metcalf. No, sorry, just kidding. We just traded him.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it was tough between Seattle and Arizona because I actually think Arizona's gonna be a lot better this year too.
That's my sleeper.
I mean, you got Kyler Murray's a dynamic quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a good rookie campaign, but maybe a little quieter than people thought. On defense, they fly around. So I was torn between those two, but I've got the Rams winning the division.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Rams are the best team in that division. With the young talent they have, Puka Nacua. They have Cooper Kupp if he's healthy.
Kupp's on Seattle now.
Kupp's on Seattle now, so they still. They're going to replace him with another player.
Yeah, no doubt.
They have one of the best young coaches in the game with McVay. So it's going to come down to if they can stay healthy, because losing Aaron Donald obviously is going to be a factor. But they have the defensive player of the year,
the rookie
of the year,
Verse.
that is going to get better, and he's going to make guys around him better. Teams are going to put more focus on him, which in turn is going to make the guy next to him, get singled up and have more opportunities to make plays. Do they have that guy? But they're experienced, they're seasoned. I don't think that they are the cream of the crop around the NFL. They're probably 14, 15, but in this division, I think it's probably one of the most mediocre divisions in football next to the one that we're about ready to talk about. I think it's the second worst division in football. I just think it's average.
Well,
and I think they're the tallest midget in that division. The Arizona Cardinals, because of Murray, because of Marvin Harrison Jr., I think that they're a team that you have Connors at running back. They're a team that could be a team that makes some noise. I guess which would be winning 9 games. In that division, that would be, maybe the max of any of these teams. The Rams might win 10, might win 11, but I think the Seahawks are going to fall off. I really do. Losing, their best player and their receiver. You're getting Darnold, which is about, the same that you had with Geno Smith. Maybe a little bit of an upgrade, maybe a better arm, but I don't think that they have all the pieces they're necessary. I take the Rams and the Cardinals as my sleeper.
Gotcha. Then we'll finish with the NFC South. I've got Tampa Bay winning it again. They won it last year. A lot of close games for Tampa Bay. I think that Baker Mayfield has turned into a really good quarterback now. He's got talent all around him. They play great defense. They've added Ibuka, the rookie receiver out of Ohio State. They do have some injuries at receiver to start the season off, and the offensive line. Unfortunately, all those guys will be back when the Panthers play them first. But I got Tampa winning the division, and then my sleeper. It's a tie because both the Panthers and the Falcons to me are very similar. They both had awful defenses last year. They both spent all off season through free agency in the draft, replacing guys and trying to fix the defense. They both have young quarterbacks who show a lot of potential and are big years for both those guys. Both teams are going to be able to run the ball. Bijan Robinson, obviously one of the best running backs in the game. The Panthers with Chuba and Rico Dowdle, I think, are going to be able to run the ball as well. Drake London, the receiver for the Falcons. A lot of people compare Ted McMillan to 6'4" guy, 6'5" guy that can run and get open. So I think they're very similar teams. I would probably have the Panthers edge the Falcons as my sleeper, only because I think that Bryce has 2 years under his belt, where Penix only has, I think, 6 games. So I think if Bryce takes the step that we all hope he does, I think that will be the difference between the two. But I think it's going to be a close call between them. But so I've got Carolina with the lean as my sleeper, but I got Tampa Bay winning the division.
I agree with you on a lot of things that you said when it comes to this division, minus the Bucks. I think they're going to take a step back. Baker Mayfield had a great year last year. He caught lightning. Everything was going his way. I've also seen the Baker Mayfield that we cut as a Panther fan. A guy that looked lost, wasn't ready to take that next step, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing about that team that excites me, right? There's nothing about the Bucks that excite me. They're solid. But if you're looking at a scale of 1 to 10, there are probably a bunch of 6s everywhere. There's nothing that stands out. Baker Mayfield had a Pro Bowl year last year just because there was really nobody else to choose in the NFC. That being said, the Atlanta Falcons are my team to win the division. And I love Penix as a quarterback. He's a winner everywhere he's been. If you remember, he only played half the season last year before he came in. This is his team. Right. It's a big difference between, going out there when, not knowing and then giving the keys and then excelling, making changes. And now you have a whole offseason to be the guy who you're going to work with, Drake London. You're going to work with, Bijan Robinson. You're going to work with these guys and you're going to start clicking. They may not have, the best defense, but nobody in this division does. Tampa would probably be the best, but I don't think their firepower on offense is going to be, much better. I think that the Atlanta Falcons slight the Panthers in this division. I don't think the Panthers are ready to win yet. I think that Atlanta is going to be the best team. I think Tampa is going to be the next best team. But I agree with what you said on the Panthers and on the coming up. I think they're going to be the most improved team in this division. How much have they improved is going to be the question.
Yeah.
And it's all going to depend on Bryce Young. It really does. It comes down to, how well he plays, because if he plays well, the defense isn't on the field.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a big factor in being a really good player, is that I take away the weakest thing that we have, which is our defense, and I'm leaning on the strongest thing and scoring points.
Yeah.
Right. Defense, I still think is going to give up points. I don't think they're dynamic. I don't think they have enough pass rush. And I think that they're still going to be, probably one of the worst defenses, in this division. That doesn't mean that they're not going to get better.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that they have an opportunity to be the best. That's why I'm taking it as my up and coming team.
Well, we talked about the Panthers Jacksonville game with Lee, and how, I think we were all agree that Jacksonville.
I remember us going through our way too early predictions with this. That was one of the games that you really felt like they could win.
Well, they can win it, but
I mean, they can win.
If I'm putting my money on it, I think Jacksonville. At home, like Lee said, in Jacksonville, the heat was going to play a factor. The Panthers have to get off to a great start. If Bryce Young can get off to a quick start, which he has not done yet, his first 2 games in the NFL were last year and the year before that were not good. Picks this first throw both years. They've got to get off to a good start. Defense has got to get off the field, right? So, if the defensive line, this rebuilt defensive line, can stop the run, I'm not really worried about Jacksonville's running game. Trevor Etienne doesn't scare me. He can be dangerous, but he doesn't scare me. It'll be interesting to see.
You see him at Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, look, rookie. He's had good games in the NFL. I'm not saying that, but he doesn't. If our defensive line is rebuilt and can stop the run, he's not a guy that worries me. They got Brian Thomas Jr. at receiver, who's great.
They have to prove they can get off the field on third down and stop the run.
No doubt.
And if you can't get on the field on third downs, because you can't stop the run.
No doubt. And Brian Thomas Jr., at receiver for them is a great receiver, had a great rookie campaign. Travis Hunter is going to be interesting to watch. He's a starting receiver, and he's going to be a backup at DB. So I had Jacksonville there, but let's roll into the picks.
Hold on. What's funny real quick. I want to say one more thing about that game and the Panthers and, their expectations. What's funny is that when we looked at these schedules, a couple months ago, and we were talking about, our expectations for how many wins we thought they were going to get. I think we both agreed that if the Panthers were going to have the success that they wanted, they would have to win early.
Yep.
After the preseason, I made my my prognosis based on, Dave Canales playing Bryce Young in the preseason, and this team, establishing themselves, getting better, and finding out who they were, developing an identity. And I haven't learned anything about this team. That
really weighs a lot into what I'm saying, because nothing that I learned in preseason made me feel better about this team. Now, again, look, Lee mentioned that Trevor Lawrence threw 6 balls in preseason. Bryce Young,
I don't know how you can measure a guy and whether they look good or not by 6 balls.
Well, and Bryce Young threw 6. So, who knows? But you're right. They got to get off to a good start. Their first 4 games aren't easy, but it gets harder after that. So
I think the Panthers are going to get better. That doesn't mean they're going to win the game.
And listen, here's the other thing too.
But getting better doesn't equal wins for them.
No doubt.
It's not getting blown out or finding a victory here.
And it's also going to be interesting to see with the Panthers, not only the free agency the guys we brought in on free agency on the defensive line. I love the safety we brought in from the Raiders, but it's also going to be interesting to see what Nick Scorton, our defensive end from Texas A&M, our second round pick, and Uma Nealon, what these young guys do. That's going to be fun to watch. So as soon as you see those guys getting better every week, making the difference, it's definitely going to make you feel better about the team.
I mean, and that's what I'm trying to emphasize when I'm making this pick. It's going to be based on more of my level of excitement for what you just said, is the development of this team. And that doesn't necessarily equal wins. I still think it's going to be a 5 to 6 win team. It's not going to change my expectations. Can they change that? Yeah, absolutely. Can they win 8, 9 games? Yes. Can they be a fringe playoff team? Absolutely. If things start snowballing and if Bryce Young plays well.
Yep.
I think this is a huge year for Bryce Young. I have hope that he's going to exceed, because I like the kid, I like his character, and I like the direction he was headed last year at the end of the season.
Yep.
And they've done nothing but add pieces. They have a better understanding offensively of that connection between coach and player. This is what I'm calling. This is what I'm seeing, because I'm calling these plays because this is what I'm seeing from the sideline. That's transitioning to quarterback. I'm seeing the same things now because I've worked for you now, and you've taught me what you're looking at, so I can look for those things as players are developing. And I think that will help Bryce Young as well. But as far as this team, I just think they're still kind of right there. What's interesting about this team is that you and I, we sit here and we talk about all the great players, Ted McMillan, and also some of the moves they made with Scorton and all this and that. It's interesting to hear the perspectives of other national pundits and what they think about this team.
Yeah,
right. Because this team to them is 26th, 27th worst team in the NFL.
Yep.
I mean, that's where they have them. Right.
And but there were some analysts.
I think that's fair criticism.
I agree. But there are some analysts that did pick them as a team to watch, and a team that could be a sleeper team, a team on the rise.
I don't hear as many of those people talking right now.
No, that's true. And listen, we're going to find out a lot on Sunday. The first game is not going to break the season, but they've got to play well.
I hope that. I'm betting the Jaguars. I'm sure you are too.
I am too. If write that down right now.
Jaguars are -2.5, -3, something like that.
3.5.
-3.5. You get 3 for the home field. They're half a point better than the Panthers. I think they picked earlier than the Panthers last year. But I will be happy to lose my $20 in that game.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, we're going to run through our picks real quick and get out of here. I know we got to scoot. First, we're going to do 7 games.
Okay.
Charlotte 49ers at home against Carolina.
Are we going against the spread?
Yep. 13.5 is the spread. North Carolina favored by 13.5. I'm taking the Tar Heels. Both teams coming off pretty miserable openers. I just think that the Tar Heels have to be better than what we saw. And I also am not sure Charlotte can score 13 points in general. So I'm taking the Tar Heels.
I'm also taking the Tar Heels. And you could give me 21 or 28.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be close. If the spread is only 13, I know the Tar Heels can't tackle, but I equally saw the game against App State, and they look like high school kids trying to tackle college kids.
Yep.
And, Tar Heels have some players. You got to believe that Belichick is going to ramp it up a little bit after that week 1 disappointment. He's going to take some onus. They have some playmakers. They have some weapons. They're not going to have the caliber of player they had at TCU going against their crappy center that got pushed around all over the place.
Yep.
So I like UNC, and I like them big. 52-14.
Gosh, I don't know about that big of a spread.
52-14.
All right, Illinois at Duke. We broke that game down with Lee.
What's the spread?
It's 2.5. Illinois -2.5. I'm going to go with Illinois for the same reasons that Lee brought up about running the ball, stopping the run. I think Duke's quarterback is dynamic. I think he's going to be a problem, but I do think Illinois will get it done -2.5.
Duke is a team in the ACC that's really started to step up.
Yep.
They've surprised a lot of people. I think they were heading in a good direction. They have a good quarterback. Defensively, I think they play hard. But the teams they struggle against, the teams that line up in tight ends and fullbacks and run at you, and that's Illinois. They play great defense at Illinois. They always have. Back to the Simeon Rice days. In the '90s, they get after guys, and that hasn't changed. You're playing against better competition in the Big Ten, versus what Duke is playing in the ACC. Although the ACC surprised over the weekend, they played a lot better, especially in Miami and Florida State.
No doubt.
But I do think Illinois wins this game by 5-6 points.
All right, Michigan at Oklahoma, the biggest game of the week as far as rankings go. Oklahoma -5.5. Again, I agree with what Lee broke down with Michigan's offensive line. I do think Oklahoma's quarterback's a really good quarterback, but I just don't trust Oklahoma's offense to score enough points. And I think if this kid from Michigan, who we all agree is going to be a stud, Underwood, they did nothing with him week 1 on purpose, right? So they didn't give Oklahoma anything really to game plan. I've got Michigan getting 5.5.
I agree. I think I'd take Michigan head up in this game. I'm not a big believer in Oklahoma's head coach, Riley. Who is it now?
Now I'm going to forget the old defensive coordinator for Clemson. Why am I forgetting it? But
so not Venables.
There you go.
Venables. So when you look at that's a defensive minded coach. Oklahoma has to score points to win games.
Yep.
That's what they've always won. They've scored 70, they've scored 50, they've scored 60. They're one of the highest scoring teams. They're going to have some talent, but Harbaugh left the cupboards full at Michigan, with those line guys. You're not talking about, in the NIL, you might lose one defensive lineman, you might lose one offensive lineman, to a deal in the portal or whatever it might be. You're going to have your cupboards full. The people that they're coming after are the receivers and the running backs, the high profile guys. And Michigan with I watched that kid play, the number 1 overall pick. I mean, he has all the intangibles.
He's a real deal.
All
size,
the
speed, can throw it.
He has not. They have not shown, his ability to run the ball. I don't know about Michigan's head coach.
Yeah, I don't either. Right? And he's suspended for this game as well. Yeah, so
that's a factor into that as well. But I still like Michigan against Oklahoma, and I think it's going to be a close one. But I think Michigan wins because of the versatility with the quarterback.
All right, we're going to move to the NFL. Kansas City and the Chargers tonight in Brazil. Kansas City -3.5. I've got the Chargers. We talked about this game with Lee, so I don't need to break it down again. I just think the Chargers are going to be an improved team this year. Harbaugh knows what he's doing. I think Kansas City, still going to be a really good team, but takes a little step back. I've got the Chargers.
Losing a Super Bowl is one of the hardest things a team can ever do. Right. The setbacks, the disappointment, even though it leaves that burning desire, I'm speaking from experience here, thinking the expectations are, we're going to work hard, we're going to get back. Yeah, that's great until we all start getting a little bit older. We start, having, I think Worthy's going to have a big year. Mahomes is going to throw, find him. You got to find a different player than Kelsey to get the ball to, even though Kelsey's still a very productive player. The Chargers, Harbaugh, it's going to take a little time for them to get there, but I like Kansas City in a close one here.
Kansas City -3.5. All right, Tampa Bay and Atlanta. In Atlanta, Tampa Bay is laying 1.5 points.
In Atlanta.
And I'm going Atlanta. I think that they're at home. I think that.
Wait a second.
Well, listen.
Wait a second.
Here's why I'm going Atlanta. I think that when you have a home opener and the fans are going to be crazy, these two teams always play, it seems, within a field goal of each other. Every game is close. I just think that with Bijan Robinson, you've got one of the best running backs in the game. It's at home. If this game was in Tampa, I would take Tampa. But I just think that Atlanta is going to win this game in a close game with a 3-point game. And I'm taking the Falcons.
I don't think Atlanta's home field is as good as probably 90%. It's not a very hostile environment. It's so big. It's so gaudy. It feels like you're at a concert sitting on the top trying to look at the band down from low. I've been to college football games there where Oregon was playing Georgia. You see the place, and it's a college atmosphere where you think it's going to be as rowdy and the ruckus is. It's not the same as when you go to New Orleans and their whole fan base is there and you can't hear a damn thing.
Yep.
So I don't know if the home field advantage is going to be a big thing for Atlanta, but I do feel like this is their time. Penix is going to, take them to the next level. I like Atlanta in this one for sure. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Tampa's going to stay in the game, but I think Penix is it's going to be a very big shootout, like what we saw towards the end of the year with the Panthers playing the Falcons.
Yep. Last game, Baltimore at Buffalo, rematch of the AFC Championship last year, I believe it was. Baltimore's -1.5 in Buffalo.
Thank you for not making me pick the Steelers game against the Jets.
Yeah, that one is a flip of the coin, but I'm going.
You think so?
I think it's going to be a good game. I think for the reasons we talked about with Lee.
All right, let's talk about this one.
I don't know what Aaron Rodgers has. I don't know what Justin Fields has, but it's in New York. Maybe that gives him a little edge.
Was a Pro Bowl player before he got benched.
Yeah, and I thought Tomlin didn't use him correctly.
Absolutely.
And we'll see what the Jets do with him. But I've got Baltimore -1.5. I think that you so many times you see a team lose a big game in the playoffs, and when they play the next year, they win it. I do think Buffalo is going to be a really good team this year, but I think Baltimore, this could be a year they make the Super Bowl. And I've got Baltimore -1.5.
I think both teams are very close in talent, in skill, and expectations. Right? They're both championship quality teams. Right? Either one of them I could see making a run and winning the Super Bowl. Right? It'll be the Bills' first one. It'll be Baltimore. They've been the team of the last couple of decades with what Harbaugh has done there. The biggest difference in these games have been the guys that make the plays when they count versus the team that doesn't. And until Baltimore makes those plays, I have to bet against them. I'm taking Buffalo in a close one in this game. Josh Allen is a difference maker, just like when you look at the Lamar Jackson. They both can overtake a game, but I like Buffalo in this one in a close one.
All right, so we've got a couple different choices this week. I got to get back and try to gain on you from week one.
I'm up 3 on you?
Yep, you were 6-2 and I was 3-5. So yeah, you're up 3 on me. And so I can't catch you this week, but I can get a dent in it hopefully. So hopefully we have some good games. Panthers, Jaguars.
I can win moving on out. That's the only problem or challenge with us picking the same teams. There has to be maybe one game a week that we can gain
that we do differently.
Or else I just pick the same teams you do, and I'll never.
Yeah, but you're too competitive to do that. You're not going to coast in there. You're not going to take a knee.
Well, because I'm so competitive, I like to win.
Well, that's true too.
Right.
All right. Panthers, Jaguars, Sunday, 1:00. We're looking forward to the game. I know you guys are. We'll be back Monday to recap that, as well as the college football weekend and the NFL weekend. It's back. We're here. The weather's going to cooperate. Actually, it's going to be a little hot in Charlotte this weekend, but after that, it's going to start cooling down. But have a great weekend. Enjoy your friends, family, and football.